This week's episode of It's All Her is brought to you by the Card Network. For the fashionista in all of us this Christmas, gift the latest women's clothing, shoes, and accessories with the Her Gift card. Available online at Card.Gift. Welcome back to It's All Her, the podcast. I'm your host, Jordy Lucas. I'm the founder and editor of It's All Her. I was an actress in a previous life and I'm a mum to a toddler. I've got a lot going on and I have a passion for helping women live simpler, better lives. For the latest in lifestyle, entertainment, and ways you can make your life better, head to itsallher.com. Hello, how are you this week? Last week we didn't have a fresh episode. Instead, because it was perinatal mental health week, we threw back to some of my favourite conversations we've had on this podcast regarding postnatal depression and anxiety, and just overall how becoming a mother changes you. So some great chats with Abby Gilmore, Steph Pace, Midwife Kath are all available for your ears. Just search It's All Her wherever you get your podcasts, or you can head to itsallher.com/motherhood. I talk about it all the time. I think it's just because postnatal anxiety has had such a huge effect on my life. And it's something that I talk a lot about with this week's guest. Ash London has had a pretty enviable career in radio, but she decided to step away from that to focus on being a mum to her incredibly cute baby boy buddy. We talk about work, how she met her husband at the ARIAS, of all places, and how she's producing content on her terms now that she's a mum. Here's my chat with Ash London. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this week. You have such an incredible career and you're a new mama. How are you going?
Well, in the world's most unsurprising news, I'm exhausted and my nipples hurt.
Yeah.
But my mum is currently in the living room holding Buddy while my husband's upstairs on a call and I'm here with you. So, I mean, it's just mum's winning all round, really. I may be 35 and a mum myself, but still need my mama. So
yeah, you do.
Yeah. So because of her, I'm feeling really good, and my husband's the best, and we're really sharing the duties around. And my dog's currently sitting at my feet and has me all to herself for the first time in a month. So she's
I bet
stoked.
she's happy with that.
The pesky baby's not around, cramping her style. So she's very happy. It's a win-win, really.
Amazing. I want to hear all about your transition into motherhood, but let's take it back to earlier life. What were your aspirations and goals in your formative years?
Well, I always loved music. I was obsessed with music. I lived in the Philippines because of my dad's job. So for a while I was just kind of at home by myself watching a lot of MTV and Channel V, and that was like 99, 2000.
Yeah.
Also known as the best time for pop music ever, when Britney and Christina and NSYNC and, Ricky Martin and 98 Degree. It was just like, pooh. So I desperately wanted to be part of that world, but I didn't want to be a musician per se. And I was super into acting and all that sort of thing. So I knew it would be something in the entertainment industry, but I never thought radio. I thought radio was a bit lame. And then I kind of I got a TV gig, did music TV, and then was offered like a weekly radio show. I thought, oh, okay, I'll do it. And even at uni, I studied broadcasting, but I skipped the radio bits because I was like, not for me, babes. And then, I got this a weekly radio show and kind of loved it, and then transitioned to full-time radio. So I wanted to be in the entertainment world, especially in music. And I think I kind of pulled it off because it meant I got to be part of the world without having to be a musician, which I couldn't have done anyway because I have no such skills.
And you've gone on to have an incredible career. You've had your own shows. People sort of refer back to things as their break, getting into the industry. What was your break, do you think?
Yeah, I think it was definitely, so I've been in London for 2 years just working as every kind of 23, 24-year-old Aussie did. No, they don't do it anymore because they can't. I did the London thing, and then I came back and I worked as a copywriter for a company that made music entertainment, radio shows. I didn't want to be a copywriter, but I wanted to work in that world. So I thought, stuff it. I'll just take any job I can get. And I did. And so I did that for a while. And I was working on a radio show called Take 40 Australia, which is a radio show I grew up listening to.
Mm.
So then became writer on it. And then this gig came up. It was like literally like as a talent search, like this new music television show was looking for a co-host. And I knew straight away that was my gig. I was like, yeah, that's my big break. So I just made an audition tape and sent it in. And I got the gigs. And I moved to Sydney and I started hosting a show called The Loop alongside Scott Tweedy, who became one of my best mates. And then about a year after that, got the gig hosting Take 40. So I came full circle on the radio Take 40 thing. But I definitely, my big break was The Loop, moving to Sydney. And that kind of got me from being more of like a journalist, behind the scenes, interviewer, writer of radio shows for other talent, to being in front of the camera, in front of the microphone. So that was, and it was, you know, it wasn't an easy gig. It was a big transition from having no idea what I was doing to like rocking up one day and being expected to, you know, front a TV show. But I nailed it. I was really good at it. I really liked it. And that helped. And I think I smashed it. And that kind of like kicked things off for me. So that was definitely my big break.
And it helps to get along with the people that you're working with. Like if you're working with Scott, who was like a good dude, that helps enormously.
In this industry, you don't often choose your co-host. You get lumped together with someone. You'd make a great duo, go for it.
Yeah.
And I got Scott, the greatest, nicest, wouldn't hurt a fly human in the world, followed by Angus O'Loughlin on radio, who's literally become my brother. So I just got super lucky with co-hosts, and they're genuinely people I wanted to come to work with every day. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. Like, I'm just not that person who can handle, because you hear about that, like people like radio duos, and you're like, did you know they actually hate each other?
Hate each other, yeah.
Like, no way. I couldn't do that. That's a waste of life. So I got mega lucky. But also perhaps I wouldn't have agreed to do either if I didn't like them. And I loved them both.
And so your husband worked at SCA. Yep. Is that how you two met and sort of fell in love?
That's a pretty weird story. So I was at SCA, Southern Cross Stereo, for people who don't know. So they make the Hit Network and Triple M. So that's kind of like the chick station and the dude station, if you will. Yeah. Which is a very outdated way to look at it. I was doing the night show with Angus for, I don't know, 2 years or something. And it was called Shazam Top 20. And then I wanted something different, and I was over it and had been dumped and was just generally unhappy and about to turn 30. And I was like, ugh. So I quit and I went traveling, and I just lived my best life and spent a couple months on a random, literally a desert island.
Oh, wow.
8 hours from the nearest city in the Philippines, and just like bummed around there for a while and, snorkeled and drank cheap rum.
Yeah.
And then Asia, and then went to Europe, and I really wanted to live in London again, but I couldn't get a visa. So I was like having all these meetings with like BBC and yada, yada, yada. And they were like, we love you. You're great. We'll put you on air. You need a visa. Brexit. Can't get your visa. And I couldn't get a visa. I was like, ah. So I came home with my kind of, towel between my legs, like, fucked up my life. And then I got offered this Ash London Live gig. Well, I got offered at the night show on my own, and I could do what I want with it. And I thought, okay,
fine, I'll have my own show.
I guess I'll do it. So I came back to Australia for that job, started it in October. And when I worked at the company the first time around, Adrian had been working in Brisbane, I think. And so we had nothing to do with each other. I didn't know he existed. I thought he was old because people talked about him as he was this like mentor guy who was like, a great boss. And he's I was like 50. AB 50, didn't care because he's old. Yeah. And then I was at the ARIAS, which is like late November. So I'd been back in Australia like a month, and I'm sitting there, and I have Angus O'Loughlin on one side of me, who is my mentioned ex-co-host, and a girl called Amanda on my other side, who we worked with as well. And I was like sitting there, and the event had just started, and our boss Dave walked in, who's kind of an older gent in his late 40s, early 50s, a good looking man, and Adrian. And I like grabbed both of them, and I was like, who is that? And they were like, that's Dave, our boss. I'm like, no, the other one. Like, me, AB, Adrian. And I was like, I thought he was old, but he's our age.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Introduce me. And they were like, the ARIAS is on, like chill out. And I was like, excuse me. I was just like, move, like someone move over so you can sit next to you. I was like, and this is not me normally. I was not the person, but I was like claws in. And so we got introduced and I knew I was going to marry him. I literally texted my friends. I was like, girl, I just met the guy I'm going to marry, just giving you the heads up.
Oh my God.
And we sat at the Universal Music after party until like 3 a.m. talking, which solidified the knowledge that I was going to marry him.
Yeah. Because I saw on your Instagram that you posted like a throwback to your first date and you said that you both knew that it was going to be.
Yeah, forever. Totally. So that was November. And then we lived in different cities, you know, and he was going overseas. So we were just friends because it was like, you know, and then January we kind of went on our first date, but it was a mere formality. Like at that point I'd already named our children. It was just like so obvious, but it had to be like that for me because I was always like picky and just in my mind I was like, I'll never find someone that I can commit to wholeheartedly because part of me will always find something wrong with them, blah blah blah. Like I'm a career woman, that's going to fill my cup. I'll just have a series of interesting relationships along the way that will serve some purpose, and then I'll get rid of them and move on to the next thing. But my career is my, you know. And then I met him, and it was just like, okay, well, it has to be like this. Otherwise, I was never going to be the person that fell in love with their best friend one day. Like, and then I woke up and I realized I loved him. No, it had to be like I saw him across the room and was like, and you know what's really funny about like 3 years after that, I wanted to send Amy Shark a DM on Twitter randomly.
Yeah.
So I went to my DMs and I saw that she had sent me a DM that night. This was before Amy Shark was famous. So she'd taken a photo of me from the balcony and the photo was me meeting Adrian at the ARIAS. And I was like,
God.
I texted her, I was like, babe, you know, you have a photo of me meeting Adrian. Like, how weird is that? So anyway, that's the long version of answer to your short question. That's right. And I love him. I still love him, thankfully.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you've got your little boy now.
Yeah, buddy boy.
Buddy boy. You just mentioned before that you were, you know, really driven career woman. When you fell pregnant, did you have to navigate, you know, because I mean, I feel like it's inevitable that when women fall pregnant that there's going to be some sort of like tug of war between being a mum and your career.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that?
I think I had been thinking about it for a long ass time. So for me, I knew I always wanted to be a mum. And then when I met Adrian, there was no doubt that I would be a mum. So I think it was a really slow burn for me. And also, so I decided in November of 2019 that I'd have one more year on radio. So I'd already kind of made the decision to wrap it up. And then I got pregnant 3 months later. So it was kind of
this good timing.
Yeah. It was a supernatural thing. And then, you know, had Buddy in October, finished work in September, had Buddy in September in the end because he came early. So I think I took it slow and I knew I would have to have some sort of a creative outlet, which is why I decided to do a podcast.
Yep.
And that has been like a salvation for me because it's meant that in those weeks where I was, you know, at home, I was always at home because of bloody lockdown, but now I wasn't working. So I was just like pregnant and at home.
Yeah.
I had something to do. And even now that he's here, when as a new mom, it feels like all you do is just feed and change your baby. Felt like I've got some semblance of myself is still alive and my passion and just a little bit of me, of the old me. So, I planned it really well. And also, you know, Adrian works from home and you would have a lot of support. My mum came up. So I put a lot of things in place so that I knew I could still do what made me happy, even if when I had Buddy. Yeah. And so far it's been 4 weeks and, you know, it's worked well, you know, like when Buddy came, it was 3 weeks early. I got preeclampsia, so I had to get him out quickly.
Yeah.
So, you know, the hospital calls and come on in, we're getting him out. And I'm like, oh shit, like I haven't done this week's podcast intro or anything. So I'm like, Adrian's at the door with all our hospital bags. I'm like, this week on the Ash London podcast, you know, recording, like editing, like emailing things off to my audio producer with an email that just said, look, I'm about to have a baby. I'll be off emails. I trust you. Can you just get this thing out? Yeah. But I mean, that's classic me. It was never going to be the way I planned it. definitely had a lot of fears around it, which is why I did the podcast, because I wanted to speak to women who had done it. And I did. And so far it's given me a lot of tools and hope and just honesty, you know, that it's really hard, but it's doable. You just got to kind of put a plan in place. If you want to just dive into motherhood and do that full time, well, wonderful, do that.
Yeah.
Part of you wants to kind of keep, you know, your career going or your passions or whatever it is. Well, you've got to create that reality. So we've created that reality.
Yeah. And I think what you don't realize before you have a baby is how important it is to keep yourself happy and sane. And obviously there's postpartum depression, which is unavoidable for some women. But I think that losing yourself so much in motherhood is possibly what causes it for some women, that they just lose their identity and what makes them happy.
Weeks, when the baby doesn't even really know you yet.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like they're staring at you like, mama, I love you, my life. They're a blob and they're crying, and the only thing that will make them stop crying is your boob. And, you know, and you sweat and you're sweaty and hot and exhausted and you just want sleep. But this baby needs you. And I felt so connected to him when he was in the womb.
Yeah.
And then he comes out and gives you nothing. And you're like, ugh. So you know, there's like 400,000 things happening in your body. And I'm so glad that now we talk about postnatal anxiety and postnatal depression, because I was ready for it. You know, I was going into this going, I'm probably going to feel at some point in the next coming weeks or months a bit wobbly. Yeah. And I did. When the wobbles came, you know, I had people that I could call on and call up and go, I feel like I just want to cry. I don't feel like myself. I feel anxious. I feel sad. And they're like, that's normal. That's okay. Like, keep talking. So I'm glad that we talk about that now. And I'm glad that I kind of had some things in place so that when that did happen, I knew to reach out, to ask for help, to tell somebody, to go for a walk, to do, you know, something that would make me feel better.
Yeah.
And it didn't mean I was a bad mom or a bad person. It's just natural. It's just normal.
Yeah.
So cool.
I wish that there was more emphasis on that when you're pregnant than birthing classes and things like that. I feel like there's so much emphasis on, you know, having a birth plan and what pain medication do you want during labor and stuff. And while that's amazing for some women, a lot of women don't get to realize their birth plan or their ideal birth. And in your case, like preeclampsia, like I'm assuming that meant a cesarean straight away.
And a cesarean, and I'd done all this calm birth. I had perineum like cooling pads, and fanny flushes, and like all the yoga. I was ready to go.
Yeah,
I did all this prep, and then he came out the sunroof, and I had no idea about feeding schedules, and people had told me like, make sure you prepare for the 4th trimester. And in the end, I'm like, I don't give a shit how I birthed this thing. Like,
I know. It's so irrelevant.
So irrelevant. And it was like literally the second I met him, I didn't care anymore. But I was like, why did I care? He was always going to get here safely.
Yeah.
Now he's here and I have no idea what I'm doing, which is fine. You know, but it's amazing how much emphasis we put on the birth. And even that, like, I struggled to say the words giving birth to, but when I gave birth, because in my mind I was like, well, I didn't give birth, I had a cesarean. Even though like consciously, obviously I know that there is no difference. And to be perfectly honest, the recovery has been harrowing after major.
Yeah, I had one as well, and it's not the easy way out.
It's like, no. Once the pain meds wear off and you just got a really sore abdomen and you think, why am I in pain 3 weeks later?
Yeah.
Oh, because I had like my stomach hacked open. Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that.
What was it like having him during a pandemic?
Well, it was not the maternity experience that I experienced. So my best friend Violet got pregnant a couple months before me, as was our plan. And we were going to have amazing maternity leave together because we worked together as well. So we are going to like go to Westfield and just get foot massages and manis and do Centennial Park, and, like, long lunches and girl getaway weekends. And none of that happened. I just stayed home and with my husband and my dog in the house, which was fine. But no baby moon. I wouldn't have had a baby shower anyway, so I'm kind of glad that I was spared that.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, it was quite lonely, and just the idea that like, no one was seeing my bump. The little things you kind of look forward to. Like going out and people saying, "Oh, you're bigger, you look great." I got none of that.
Yeah.
I didn't even buy maternity clothes because I was like, well, I'm not leaving the house, so I was disgusting. I don't, honest to God, I'm glad I married a feminist. Because I was foul. Like, didn't even wear clothes in the end. I was like, stuff it. And then once he came, it was like double stuff it. Like, most full-on milk supply of any pregnant woman or mother in the whole world. So my boobs.
So you stink of spew,
exactly.
milk. Yeah.
I'm always engorged. My boobs are always leaking. I breastfed before this, and as I was getting my nipple ready to put in his mouth, I squirted breast milk all over his face like a Jackson Pollock painting, like in his eye. Like I wake up in the night and the sheets are wet, and I'm like, oh, I must be sweating. No, my boobs are leaking because it's been 2 hours since I fed. Like I need to donate it. Like I think I was supposed to have quadruplets or something because my body is making milk for a small army of children. And I'm waiting for it to regulate, but like I'm thinking maybe this is my life now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot, babe, as you know.
Yeah, it is. How did you have the vaccine chat with friends and fam? Because I feel like I had Evie in 2019 and it wasn't even a thing. Like I just sent out a text being like, hey everyone, can you just make sure you've had your whooping cough or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now it feels like vaccine conversations are taboo.
Totally. It's really stressful.
How did you navigate that?
Well, luckily for me, everyone in my sphere vaccinated, and that happened pretty early on. So I haven't had to have that chat yet. And especially because like, I don't know, my friends and family are pretty cool. Like that, and so because we're Lebanese, I thought it was going to be like, oh shit, they're going to be like banging down the door at the hospital, but I wasn't allowed visitors at the hospital. And I think it's made everyone hypersensitive. So the messages that I've gotten have been, hey, we can't wait to meet Buddy. Let us know when you're ready for visitors and what that looks like, which is such a blessing. So my mum came up and she lives with my auntie, like literally on our street. So the two of them made sure they were double vaccinated anyway, but then went and got their whooping cough boosters. Yeah. And so far I just haven't let anyone else touch him really.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to now get the text from people like, we'd love to meet Buddy. But it's funny, like everyone includes in the text, just so you know, I'm double vaccinated. My niece is 4, so I've had my booster. Everyone is so aware of it. Yeah. But it's still, I still am very anxious about him meeting people, and I think I would have been just without a pandemic. And this has kind of doubled it. But
it's just an extra layer of shit to think about and to worry about.
Yeah. And even my decision to get vaccinated, and I made that decision very early on that it was something I wanted to do, and I couldn't do it for a while. They said we recommend pregnant women get it, but then we weren't eligible to get it. So the day we were eligible, I was, booked in. And, like being an F grade celebrity, you attract, like everyone's opinions. And I still have 99% of people were like, thank you. And I was always going to be public about it because I'm so like pro-vaccine.
Yeah.
99% of mums were like, good on you, you're amazing. And then 1% were like, your baby's going to be deformed. You're an idiot. Which is like so what you want to hear when you're 6 months pregnant. It's exactly what you want from people.
Why the fuck would anyone think that is an appropriate thing to send someone? Like,
so weird because it's like all reason just kind of went out the door for a while.
Yeah.
But that kind of really, that rhetoric only like spurred me on to keep being proud of it because I was like, well, this is what we're up against. Well, I'm going to need to be loud about this,
Yeah.
And I still have like close friends, best friends who had hesitancy around it. And, a big learning curve for me, COVID aside, as I've been getting older, is just to learn to disagree with people and not have to be right. And like, my best friends, we can have different views on things and that's okay. I don't have to get everyone on Team Ash. And that's really hard for me because I'm a smart ass know-it-all. And, I know that about myself and I have the self-awareness to know that.
Yeah.
So I think it's been, and that's something you need in motherhood is the ability to let things go and like,
yeah.
okay, thank you for your advice, which I'm now going to ignore. You know what I mean? And have that grace for people who are just trying to help, but giving you really bad advice or making you feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, lots of lessons in there.
Yeah. The unsolicited advice, but also like abuse online, I find astounding. Like I had people messaging me when I spoke about getting the vaccine, and people were messaging me being like, I'm really disappointed in you. And it's like, what makes you think I care? Like,
exactly.
I don't know you. Why do you think that would upset me that you're disappointed in me? I don't know you.
Like, not that I would really put many photos of Buddy online anyway. Like, I think I put 3 online, and my story is now private when I put photos of him up. But I know that, like, anytime I have put a photo up, like, someone will find something that's wrong with the situation. I've got the wrong blanket. He's in the wrong position. He shouldn't be like that. He's going to die of SIDS. And it's like, so I had to stop, like, and it makes it easier because, you know, but
do you respond to people when they say that, or do you just
sometimes I do. It depends what type of mood I'm in when they catch me out.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I just, like, my command of the English language is better than I'm going to say everyone that follows me. So if someone wants to pick a fight with me, like, I will win. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have many skills in life, and my ability to like construct a sentence well and use my brain and reasoning to like defeat your shitty argument, it's pretty solid. So, you know, like if I want to, I can. But I think it's balanced out by the fact that 99% of people have been so amazing. Like I've had beautiful women like knit him that I don't know, knit him outfits and send them to me in the post.
Oh my God.
Beautiful, you know, like I put one post up once that was just about talking about how exhausted I was and how hard motherhood was. And I reckon I got 500 replies. Not with advice, just with you're doing great.
And sometimes that's all you need to hear.
Totally, because they don't know that I'm doing great. They're not here, but they know that I need to hear that I'm doing great. And that for me was like so beautiful that, you know, like I just balance it out with the fact that probably more than 99% of the time, women are like so team Ash and so encouraging and, you know, so that helps. But there's always one or two
dickheads. Yeah. What have you found most challenging about becoming a mum?
Trusting my instinct, because I generally don't try things that I know I'm not going to be great at. That's just kind of how I get by in life. You know, I don't play sports. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be good at it. So I'm not going to try. I'll stick to things that in my 35 years of life, I know I can do. And if it's a new thing, well, I've got the skills. I'm pretty sure I can take an educated guess. I'm going to be good at that.
Yeah.
So going into motherhood as an overachiever, it came out straight away in the hospital. I was like, all right, what are the KPIs here? Okay, I need to, like, this is the amount of weight he's allowed to lose. I need him to latch this way. The 3 things. Okay, great. And I did all those.
Yeah.
And the midwife literally wrote an A+ on my little whiteboard for Buddy. Yes.
Nailed it.
Nailing it. And then I got home and I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I want the midwives again.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge for me was just not knowing what I was doing and having grace with myself in the meantime, that no one is expecting me to know what I'm doing here apart from me. You know, like, this is a brand new experience. I need to relax and I need to just let myself get to know him, because he's a stranger and I'm a stranger. Yes, we know each other because we're like maternally bonded, but I don't know what his cries mean yet. And I'm learning that now. I know what cry he makes when he's got gas as opposed to when he just wants some boob, you know?
Yeah.
So being patient, and I'm sure you were the same, just being patient with yourself in the meantime. And, you know, I had moments where I thought I was a horrible mum because he wasn't looking at me when he was feeding, or he would like push my boob away. And I was like, he hates me. Of course he doesn't hate me, you know. And then this week he's like not so keen on Adrian and won't settle on Adrian. Whereas for the first 2 weeks, Adrian settled him straight away. And I was like, he hates me. And now Adrian's like, he hates me. So it's like a lot of learning as we go and just being as kind to myself as I can and just giving in to the fact that I'm not going to sleep, you know, just got to get to it and not expect that like anything you're going to do will change it. I don't need to be anywhere. you know, fight the urge to palm him off or to put him in the rocker because I don't want to hold him because I'm feeling unproductive. No, I'm going to sit here for half an hour and I'm just going to hold my baby.
Yeah.
My activity for half an hour.
Oh, and seriously, like, hold on to those moments because as in the blink of an eye, he'll be, you know, I look at my 2-year-old and I'm like, how the fuck are you two? Like,
I want those yourself looked to, Jordy. Like, were you 12 when you had a baby? Like, when you said you had a baby, I was like, okay, child bride, I get it. I'm like, geriatric over here. Well done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but far out, it goes quick.
Yeah, I hear that.
It sounds like such a, you know, a cliche, and it's so overdone.
Yeah,
but you have to just like enjoy those moments because they're gonna like be gone real quick.
Yeah. And I had a real like revelation of it early on as I was holding him because I'm pretty self-aware, and I had a thought. The thought was something like, okay, how can I offload him so I can go and do something? And then I was like, people try for decades to have babies. Some never do. How dare I sit here and wish this moment away? You know, it's like, what the hell is that about? No. What could actually be more magical than sitting here with your baby boy, who for now you are his whole world? You know, eventually he's not going to want to sit on your lap. He's not going to want anything to do with you. And he's the cutest thing that's ever existed. Like, I'm sure Evie's really cute, but Buddy's cuter. Like, that's just how it is, you know? So what the fuck am I doing here? Just sit and enjoy it and look at him and soak it up. So I'm glad I learned that lesson early, and I'm planning on sticking to it. And I'm scared of him getting radiation from my phone and his little brain. So that's been a big thing. I was sitting there watching, you know, Morning Wars on Apple TV and Ted Lasso.
Him on the boob and the phone.
On the boob, exactly. You've been there, babe.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, my phone is very close to his brain. And now I have that mum guilt. I'm just sitting there in silence in the dark at 2 a.m. just like staring at the wall, which means the breastfeeding feels like it goes for 3 years.
Yeah. So what's next? You released this podcast. Tell me about the podcast.
Well, it's called the Ash London Podcast, very original.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of approaching it like a show. So it started off with just mum content, a new mum who dis, interviewing successful women who became mums. We kicked it off with Miranda Kerr. And then did
not so successful, but
I mean, minor details.
Yeah.
CEO and supermodel.
Yeah.
Leanne Moriarty, the author, Emma Isaacs from Business, Tiff Hall, who was amazing, Moana Hope, Jamila Rizzi, incredible women.
Yeah.
Who I learned heaps from. And now we're expanding it out to 2 episodes a week. So there'll be mum content and then look at that bloody fly. And then a second episode, which is kind of for everyone. And the whole premise really is, how do we keep living our best lives when it feels like the world is going to shit? Because that's certainly what it feels like for me. You know, like if it's not COVID, it's bushfires and it's global warming and it's just so much bad news. But I want to keep living the good life. So how am I going to do that? So it's 2 episodes a week now, and that's kind of become my little job. Yeah. And that's my little connection to Ash London pre-baby. And if there's one thing I learned from my close personal friend, Miranda Kerr, she was saying that one thing she's proudest of is that her boys, not that see her rich or successful or whatever, it's just they see her following her passion and the power of kids seeing that their mums are passionate about other things. And that really hit home for me. So, it's been good for me to do that. And it's been successful. People listen to it, which is always
good.
Yeah. When you launch something new, there's always the fear that like no one's going to give a crap.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people don't give a crap, but some people have given a crap, which has been really nice. And then, I actually have no plan about returning to kind of traditional work. I have no idea. I'm just going to kind of give myself until next year because I had no idea what kind of mum I was going to be. I didn't know whether I was going to meet Buddy and be like, great, this is me for the next 5 years. Or if I was going to meet him and be like, I love you so much, but I can't wait to get back to work. And I didn't want to make that decision until I was kind of there. And I'm not there yet. So we'll see.
And what an amazing position to be in where you don't have to make that decision.
Yeah, which was the joys of, my husband's only 40. I'm in my mid-30s. We set ourselves up for this. We took our time, we saved, we made a plan, and I knew that I was not going to be able to be a mum that didn't have help in the form of my partner or my mum. That just wasn't going to be something emotionally I was up for. Someone can do it. They can jump into motherhood 24 hours and do it on their own. Not me.
Yeah, not me
so
either.
I knew that I would need him. I would need him at night. I would need him to kind of do some feeds during the day while I worked. So we really made a point to set ourselves up really well in that respect. And Mum's here. She's here right now in the other room holding.
Yeah.
And I literally, like, that wasn't in the plan today, but he wasn't settling. Adrian had a meeting, so I just called Mum and said, can you come over in half an hour and hold the baby? And of course she was like,
oh my God, amazing.
20 minutes. So yeah, it's doable, but we had to really kind of work at a plan. Otherwise, it would have fallen in a heap and I wouldn't have been in a good place.
Yeah. You've kind of answered my last question, but I always ask, It's or Her, we're all about making life simpler and better for women. So how do you make your life simpler and better?
Yeah, delegation. That's just a lesson I learned in radio, that I can't do everything. Yeah. And that sometimes most of the time, other people will do things better than I can. So the best thing I can do is to delegate, and that there's strength and power and vulnerability. Like admitting that you can't do it is the key to all things. Yeah. And also I would say, I back myself harder than anyone. So your job is to be your biggest cheerleader, and you can't put that on other people. You can't expect that someone else in your life is going to put you first, your needs first, to champion you, to push you. That's not anyone else's job. That's my job. My job is to, go in and back myself. And if I've got something I want to do, to go and do it. It's no one else's job, because if you sit around the whole time waiting for permission or waiting for someone to tell you you're good enough or give you the opportunity, well, you're just going to be waiting around forever. So yeah, be your biggest champion and accept help and delegate, because you can't do it all. No one can do it all. And if you think you're doing it all, you're probably doing a shitty job of it.
Ash, thanks so much for joining us this week, and I'll link your show in the show notes. Thank you.
Thank you, my love. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Stay safe and well. Love you all.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of It's All Her. If you have loved this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen, and we'll be back in your ears very soon.